It's really nice to see you all. It must have been a very long journey. So we are very grateful for you to take the effort, to make the effort to come to Korea. Thank you. It's a great pleasure for me also to open this South-South and Triangular Cooperation Knowledge Exchange between Cambodia and the Philippines as part of our SDG partnership project with Cambodia on community forest management. As we come to the final day of the three-day study mission program, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for your active engagement and meaningful contributions throughout this program. Through this mission, we intend to support the sustainable development of Cambodian community areas by leveraging Korea's expertise and several key priorities for our SDG project and help fight deforestation, poverty, and climate degradation. So your presence here today really marks a milestone of our SDG partnership with Cambodia, and I look forward to the concrete and practical outcomes based on the existing and the exciting projects you jointly discussed over the last 3 days. So since your arrival in Korea last Wednesday, we were able to learn from each other, exchange ideas, and deepen our shared commitment to sustainable forestry and community-based solutions on what I understand are 3 key topics. So first, the mission was able to focus on non-timber forestry products, such as mushrooms and medicinal products, with a field trip to the NFPF, which is the Forest Mushroom Center.
Exactly. It's the National Forest Corporation Federation.
Okay. And to NIFOR's, the Forest Medicinal Resource Research Center. Second, you also explored the possibilities of ecotourism, and that could really be one of the catalyzers for the community forest sites of this project, benefiting from their close vicinity to magnificent temples of Angkor Wat. Both sites have great potential. So, for example, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce the name right, Chankran Roy is one of the few sites where one can spot the rare coral-billed ground cuckoo. And the community of Chukchankna. Say that again, sorry. Okay, that community, it possesses unique mangrove forests and a very impressive ecosystem. So both sites, I understand, have already invested in touristic infrastructure and are able to attract national and international travelers. For this reason, it was, I hope, very beneficial to explore and to listen to the expertise of Professor Ju-Pin Lee from Daegu University during your mission and visit 2 Korean eco-sites, the Icheon Sansuyu Village and the Sannung Natural Recreation Forest. So Professor Lee's participation, I hope, offered a unique opportunity on a unique perspective on the related policy tools that may be adaptable from the Republic of Korea to Cambodia, enriching our learning and providing inspiration for future initiatives. And last but not least, the third area of possible future engagement included the nursery and seeds management with a visit this morning of the NIFOS Forest Technology Management Research Center. So each of these sectors has considerable potential for being translated into concrete steps to facilitate sustainable development in Cambodia. Thanks to the support of our Korean key partners, including the National Institute of Forest Science, NIFOS, the Korea Forest Service, KFS, and Korea University, we stand ready to support the follow-up actions and the next steps arising from this mission. And exchanging best practices on how to develop more resilient strategies will benefit not only the two countries, but the whole international community at large. And in this context, I'm also thrilled that your mission will entail a South-South triangular cooperation exchange session with our Philippines UNDP country office that just concluded a similar SDG partnership project with USPC. So for this, I would very much like to thank Mark Anthony, who is present here with us, at least virtually, from UNDP Philippines country office, who will reflect on the implementation of their previous SDG partnership with us. Before I conclude, please allow me to also warmly thank the government of Cambodia for their support, especially the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries for their support and commitment to implement our joint SDG partnership project. And let me also extend my thank you to the community leaders of Chankram Roy and Tok Chan Knapo, who also joined the delegation of the study mission, as well as the UNDP Cambodia country office colleagues for helping to organize this mission. Let me also express my sincere thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea for their continuous generous support to our center's work. And that support is enabling us to organize inspiring study missions like this one. Without their support, that would not have been possible. So again, thank you very much for your dedication and insights over these past 3 days. Let us continue to build on this partnership and advance our shared vision of sustainable forestry with concrete, actionable steps for the most vulnerable and for all those people who are not sitting around this table. So thank you very much for your attention. And again, it's a great pleasure of having you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. And now I suggest to have Yasemin Derabazi, our program analyst from the Development Cooperation team of UNDP Seoul Policy Center, to give us a brief overview of our center strategy on South-South triangular cooperation. Yasemin, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, Anne. First of all, good afternoon, welcome. And I'd like to thank our colleagues. Hi again, Mark, nice to see you again on an SSTP. And also the esteemed delegates from Cambodia for being with us here at the UNDP Seoul Press Center today. as you've just heard from our director, the collaboration between Cambodia and the Philippines under this SDG partnership project on community forest management is very exciting and insightful for us as well. So today I would like to talk a little bit about the concept of South-Southern Triangle Cooperation and why it is very important for us as UNDP and why SSTC is vital for development cooperation. So SSTC is not just another development tool, it's a transformative way of rethinking how we approach international cooperation. It builds on the strengths and unique experiences of countries in the global south, enabling them to address shared challenges and leverage their own innovations. This form of collaboration complements traditional development models by creating a more inclusive and diverse approach, bringing in lessons learned directly from those who have faced similar circumstances. Basically, what we will be doing here today as well. So at UNDP, we see SSTC as more than just a means to share best practices. It's a catalyst to accelerate progress towards the 2030 agenda. And by creating opportunities like this knowledge exchange activity here today, we aim to foster exchanges that produce lasting impact, not only for the participating countries, but for the wider development community as well. And here at the Seoul Policy Center, SSTC is at the heart of our work. It's embedded in the initiative, in our main flagship cooperation initiative, the SDG partnerships, which is specifically designed to promote demand-driven solutions, stimulate knowledge sharing, and nurture collaborative platforms. Our approach centers on creating a multiplier effect, how we call it, where the benefits of one successful partnership ripple out to influence other potential partners. In practice, this means that the knowledge and strategies developed here don't just stay here, they're disseminated and adapted to create a much broader impact. I also want to emphasize that SSTC isn't just about finding solutions, it's about fostering resilience. During global crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, SSTC proved essential in facilitating rapid responses, whether through sharing public health expertise, adapting technology, or ensuring food security. Similarly, in the context of climate change enforcement, SSTC allows us to take locally driven, globally relevant action. And for that, here at the center, we have launched our first SSTC strategy this year, and we look very much forward to learning from you and also to enable our partner countries to have a peer-to-peer exchange in person, but also via our designated website, USPC's website, where you can learn more about other SDG partnership initiatives that we are either conducting right now or that we did in the past, where we aim to collect all the knowledge that we're accumulating to basically serve as inspiration. So please feel free to have a look. And we also hope to upload whatever we produce with you and our SDG partnership over on our website to inspire other partner countries as well. This is it from my side for now. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very productive session.
So before I begin, I'd like to thank, of course, UNDP Policy Seoul Center, Dr. Anne Juknier, our node, and our colleagues. Of course, coming from the Philippines, we are very grateful for the support and for allowing us to present our project in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Mindanao, that's BARM, towards sustainable forest management. So again, I'm Mark Ramirez. I'm a program analyst under the Climate Action Program team of UNDP Philippines. By the way, I am a forester by profession, so I have a great number of years in terms of implementing social forestry projects, not just in BARM, but in other parts of the Philippines. Okay. So in 2021, we were able to receive a call from the UNDP Seoul Policy Center to submit an expression of interest for the SDG Partnership on Sustainable Forestry. And right away, we thought of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Mindanao, that's BARM. So we partnered with the BARM government, specifically the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources, and Energy, to submit a proposal. And luckily, the proposal was awarded by a funding, no, seed funding to implement sustainable forest management project in the two camps in Mindanao, no? Okay, in terms of the project objectives, so we really developed this together with our partners in MENRE, and of course, coming from the beneficiaries in the two camps that I will identify later. So we have three objectives. One is to uh, strengthen community LGU stakeholder partnerships. There is already a partnership between UNDP and MENRE that this is the first time that we partnered together in bringing social forestry interventions in the former MILF camps, or MILF stands for Moro Islamic Liberation Front. I'll discuss more about MILF later, no? And second objective is
Mark, sorry to interrupt. Just also to add to the presenters, to the audience that might not be familiar with Philippine context, LGU is the local government.
Sorry. LGU stands for Local Government Unit. That's the municipal LGU, or the municipal government in charge of overseeing and managing government basic services delivery to the communities, no? That's LGU. To continue, our second objective is to generate and implement community-based forest management that will bring about economic development and sustainable food supply for the target communities, no, in the two camps. And of course, number three is to disseminate the concept of agroforestry and other sustainable forest management concepts, no, including nursery establishment, nature buoy solution, reforestation, forest protection, through networking, teaching, demonstration, and learning exchange activities, no, that will benefit the communities residing in the forested areas. Okay, before I continue with providing you some insights about our experience in BARM, let me just present a brief history of the armed struggle in Mindanao. Mindanao is one of the three major islands of the Philippines. It is composed of around 9.75 million hectares of land, and which is about 30% of the total land area of the Philippines, no? Historically, Mindanao belongs to the Muslim families or Sultanate, but because of the colonization of the Philippines for almost 400 years, Spaniards, Americans, these areas were marginalized, and the land ownership were given to migrants and rich families coming from other places in the Philippines. So as a result of this marginalization and political exclusion, an armed struggle was formed in the 1970s. This was waged by the MNLF, the Moro National Liberation Front, which was originally composed of Muslim scholars to separate from the Philippine government, no, and of course establish their own governance mechanism. So the armed struggle continued until the 1989 peace agreement between the government of the Philippines, that's GOP, and the MNLF was signed, and eventually the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao was established. But of course, the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM, is just a bit of the total population of Mindanao, around 3 million out of the 9.7 million total land area of Mindanao, no? So, and but of course, the peace accord was not very successful, and the issues on underdevelopment, political exclusion, and socioeconomic issues still prevailed. So another organization, a separatist movement, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, waged another period of armed struggle. And and of course, with the intervention of various Muslim countries, another peace agreement was signed in the year 2026, this time for the creation of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. When we say Bangsamoro, this represents the Muslim people in Mindanao, no? And part of the peace accord or the peace agreement, there will be two tracks to follow. One is the normalization process, wherein technical assistance and financial assistance will be provided to the different MLF camps for them to be transformed and mainstream to the society, no? And another is the political track wherein the Philippine government provided autonomy in terms of governance and establishing their own type of management mechanism in the area. So right now, we have we saw a significant progress in terms of really following the agreement, no, the provisions in the agreement, and we hope that this will continue into the future. Okay. So, well, I'll just provide you a brief situational analysis of the different MLF camps in the Philippines, or particularly in BARM. Most of these MLF camps house the remaining natural forests of BARM, which is said to be constituting around 40% of the total forest land in Mindanao. These forests were previously protected during the conflict, but in the time of peace, some of these forests were decimated to give way to farms and illegal logging. Incidentally, these areas also are known to be habitat by different endemic species of flora and fauna. To prevent further forest destruction, the project designed an intervention that will help the camp leaders and their families transition to civilian life to ensure community-led management through planning and capacity building. UNDP has been working in Mindanao for almost 3 decades. But during those times, our interventions were only focused on food security and sustainable agriculture. But without clear efforts on what is happening in the upper portion of the camps. Thus, we introduced the concept of watershed. I know most of you are already familiar with the term and the concept of watershed, wherein various ecosystem services are produced by the forest that benefit downstream communities. For instance, you have water for irrigation and potable water for households. Forests also provide nutrients to soil to maintain its productivity. There are also several cultural services that, for instance, this is where you can find or where indigenous peoples live, no, and survive for so many years, no. Without these ecosystem services, production of essential goods is significantly affected. Then effective management of upstream areas should be included in peace and development efforts inside the camp. Actually, this is the first project that UNDP Philippines is attempting to link climate change and peace and development. So meaning if there are impacts, climate change impacts, this will contribute to either peace and development or further conflict in the uplands. Okay. Well, to have an effective management, area management of the site, we need to have the necessary ingredients, no? One is we need to look for an organization that is already in place and is interested to partner with the UNDP. So luckily, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority created the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources and Energy, or MENRE, whose primary responsibility is to pursue sustainable forest management through various activities, including the integrated Bangsamoro Greening Program. So our entry in the two camps have been very easy because of the partnership that we established with MENRE, no? And they are very much open to receiving technical assistance as well as financial assistance for the former MILF combatants to transition into civilian life. So the partnership with BARM MENRE was born, and of course UNDP is there to provide the necessary support and technical assistance in really establishing and of course ensuring the success of the project, no? So MENRE is being headed by a minister who is also the chief of staff of the MLF and also sits in the joint implementing panel for camp transformation. This is the joint implementing panel is composed of representatives coming from both parties, from the government of the Philippines as well as the MILF, to monitor the delivery of financial and technical assistance as provided in the peace agreement, no? We also partner through this project with local academic institutions, particularly the Mindanao State University, to provide us data and support in terms of entering the camps and being culturally sensitive to their needs, no? At the national level, we also partnered with the Biodiversity Management Bureau, BMB, which is in charge of the management and protection of various flora and fauna in our country, as well as the Forest Management Bureau, which is in charge of the land use, forest land use management in the uplands. To ensure the sustainability of our effort, we make sure that we advocated for policies on community-based forest management, which is now included in the draft Sustainable Forest Management Bill of BARM. So this is one of the significant achievement of the project. We were able to really provide meat in terms of the policy, no? And we're hoping that the Sustainable Forest Management Bill will be passed soon by the Parliament. And that will, the policy will ensure the sustainability of our efforts, no? And of course, we're also looking forward for future partnership with other sectors to really ensure the continuity of our efforts in the area. Okay, let's now move on in presenting to you the two camps, no? We have two project sites. One is Camp Abu Bakar in Barira, Maguindanao, the main headquarters of the MILF, or the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, which was devastated during the 2000 all-out war waged by the government. And the second one is in Camp Suran, Tatu Odin Sitsuat, Maguindanao, which was originally part of Camp Abubakar, but was forced to relocate away from the main headquarters during the All-Out War. But both camps are predominantly composed of Muslim families with Christian minorities and indigenous people. It's good to note that while there are several groups in the area, these groups are coexisting peacefully and working towards the development of these two camps, no? Okay, of course, UNDP with funding support from UNDP Policy Soul Center initiated several activities to achieve our goal of providing sustainable forest management intervention in the sites, no? So first, we initiated community preparation, and after that, we are we establish the baseline information of the site through mapping and inventory of resources. We did this through participatory community mapping, and of course, we use the data that we got from the mapping exercise to establish or to formulate community development plan in terms of what we call the CRMF or Community Resource Management Framework. This document embodies the vision of the communities or the communities inside the two camps in managing their forests sustainably. Of course, the plan includes the activities, the targets in terms of the physical targets on how many hectares needs to be reforested. And of course, this also provide guidance on the livelihood options that the communities can pursue in implementing sustainable forest management. The plan also include partnership and collaboration that they will form throughout the 25-year planning period. So aside from the community development plan, we also provided several capacity building activities, which I will later provide more details. And we also piloted a camp-based forest management system, wherein some of the activities that they initially identified through community development planning was funded by the local government unit, and the communities were able to apply the knowledge and skills that they learned via the project, no? Oh, okay. These are just some of the photos. Of course, you can see there that during the community resource planning, we also engage several women officials of the local government units of Barira municipality. The mapping also involved other stakeholders. Of course, we have the LGU, the local government unit, the indigenous people, as well as the academe and the non-government organizations in the area. So this provided us some validation or established that the plans embodied in the community resource management framework are acceptable, no? Are acceptable to other key stakeholders in the area. So this is where we assisted the two communities to form partnership and collaboration with other stakeholders. And we really need collaboration in providing both financial and technical assistance to the former MILF combatants and their families. So part of the results of our community planning exercises are the thematic maps that were then used in the community management planning, no? So some of these maps are presented here. For instance, you can see the existing land use resource map as well as the land cover map in Camp Abubakar. So you will notice that a large portion of the camp are still forested, mainly with natural forest, no? So it's really needed to sustainably manage these areas for the benefit of future generation. So while you have the natural forest, this will also provide various ecosystem services that the community can translate into economic activities. For instance, these natural forests can be used as part of the camp-based ecotourism, wherein we can educate locals as well as international tourists in the history of the area, in the history of the armed struggle, and how the armed struggle was translated into something that can be beneficial socioeconomically to the people. No? So we also produce the same thematic maps, set of thematic map for Camp Suran. But of course, as compared with Camp Abubakar, Camp Suran is relatively flat. No, the elevation ranges from 100 to 400 meters above sea level, and while a significant portion of Camp Suran is still forested, around 30 to 40% of the area are already planted with agricultural crops, and some of those areas also are classified as grasslands. Later, I'll show you some pictures wherein you can situate the two camps, no, in terms of the forest cover and the physical characteristics. Okay, throughout the project duration, we were able to train around 53 combatants, including 15 personnel coming from the MENRE and other stakeholders, which is composed of around 20 participants. No? And of course, we also partnered with the provincial and municipal LGU. That's around 18 participants who were able to benefit from the trainings, no? Organizational management training, as well as the cross-site visits that provided them different knowledge on sustainable land management, agroforestry, and sustainable agriculture. Okay, so these are part of our accomplishments. As I mentioned earlier, we produce different thematic maps that are useful for future planning purposes, not just for the CRMF, but of course, we can use these thematic maps in coming up with other projects or other proposals that can be submitted to other donor agencies, no, for future development projects in the area. As part of our activities, we also prepared and validated the community resource management framework for the two camps, which is now undergoing review with MENRE, because the CRMF, for it to be legally binding, it has to be signed and approved or affirmed by MENRE. And this will become the blueprint for environment and social and economic development of the area. No? As mentioned earlier, we conducted different trainings, and one of these is the cross-site visit to Bukidnon, wherein the beneficiaries learn about the different aspects of sustainable forest management, including, as I mentioned also earlier, nursery establishment, sloping agricultural land technology, agroforestry, organic farming, composting, livelihood options such as baking, and with the support of the different LGUs, covering the two camps. The camps were able to establish their own nursery. And of course, in Camp Suran, they still need further assistance or financial assistance to expand or establish its own nursery. No? Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. Part of our intervention, we also established two models for CBFM in BARM. One is camp-based, that's in Camp Suran, meaning camp-based only covers one barangay or village. And it can be easily managed, no, because of the low number of households present in the area. And another model is sorry, that's the first one is camp-based, and the other one is barangay or village based in Camp Abu Bakar. Let me just go back now. Camp base covers the whole camp. Sorry, that covers the whole camp of Camp Soran, while in Camp Abu Bakar, which is composed of several barangays, we concentrated our efforts in establishing a barangay-based sustainable forest management project. No? So also during the project implementation, we were able to strengthen the relationship among the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources and Energy, the different stakeholders, the LGUs, and the camp beneficiaries, no, on forest resources management. So right now, they were able to communicate regularly on the issues on forest protection. So they were able to establish joint patrol in these areas, in the two camps, and also provided support in terms of communication equipment to really protect the remaining forest cover in these two camps. No? As a, we also were able to link climate change, natural resources management, and peace and development through, of course, the learnings that were provided to us by Professor Johan Son of University of Korea. So we really appreciate the learning exchange during, although it's online, the participants or the beneficiaries really appreciated the learnings coming from Korea, no? And this provided them the basic knowledge of how to manage their forests sustainably. And of course, these learnings were used by the MENRE as inputs, no, to the Sustainable Forest Management Bill. And the Sustainable Forest Management Bill now includes the provision on establishing community-based forest management areas in the region, including the awarding of tenure system, no? The community-based forest management agreement with the camp beneficiaries. And as UNDP wants to continue our partnership in the area, we are also looking forward to implement other initiatives such as the DBP Forest. This is a facility of the Development Bank of the Philippines that provides grants to people's organization involved in sustainable forest management to establish nurseries and forest plantation as well as agroforestry farms inside the camps. So I am happy to inform you that last Wednesday, the very first DBP forest inside an MLF camp was signed between the DBP forest and Camp Salman in Zamboanga, Sibugay, also in Mindanao. So we're hoping that both camps, Camp Soran and Camp Abu Bakar, will also be given or will also be awarded with the DBP Forest. No? DBP Forest provides grant of up to 6 million pesos, or that's $100,000 to develop the forest areas. No? Okay. Okay, I'll show you some of the pictures coming from the sites. No? First are the photos are coming from Camp Abu Bakar. So you see the beneficiaries or the former MLF combatants there have already organized themselves into a cooperative. And part of the learnings they gain from the cross-site visit funded by UNDP Policy Soul Center in Bukidnon is on how to establish nursery. And you can see in the picture that there are seedlings of bamboos, cuttings of bamboos in the background that they are now propagating for sale. No? And this will, of course, earn them some income or some profit. No? In Kamsuran, you'll see that the area is relatively rolling to undulating. And this is part of the grassland, but to the photo on your left, that's you can see the corn plantation, corn farms, and anyway, these open areas can also be part of the forest rehabilitation projects in the future. No? They can also establish agroforestry farms or fruit tree farms in the area. Still in Kamsuran, some of the grasslands were now converted into banana plantation, and some are planted with mahogany trees. No? And we hope that in the future, the forest cover will also increase, no, through our intervention. You'll see in these pictures that the water in the river, the stream, is still very clear, no? And I remember I took this photo when I visited the area, and the beneficiaries told me that there was heavy rain experience in the area and the night before. No, still you can see that the water is still clear. No, and this is a good sign that the upper portion of the watershed or the camp is still forested and have healthy ecosystem. The cooperative also in Kamsuran has also begun to enter into goat racing, and some of these will be sold in the market as part of their cooperative activities. Still in Kamsuran, you can see the area are now sparsely populated with different trees, but of course majority of these areas are still grassland that needs to be rehabilitated or revegetated in the near future, just to make sure that these areas will be sustainably managed and to continue the ecosystem services that the area provides to not just to the upland communities, but also to the mid and lowland communities in the area. I think this photo was taken last September, or no, that's in July, wherein when we visited the area, the camp commander, the one in green, accompanied us to their mini nursery. This nursery was established right after our cross-site visit in Bukidnon. And of course, in the other photo, women members of the cooperative are doing potting and preparation of the land for the nurseries, no? Nursery establishment. Let's now go to Camp Abu Bakar. In Camp Abu Bakar, there's still a significant or majority of the area are still vegetated the natural forest. But yeah,
sorry to interrupt. So thank you for your presentation, but we would like to ask you a few questions, and we would like to end the session at 4 p.m. So maybe you can wrap up in a few minutes, and in particular, then the audience can ask questions.
Yeah, thank you, Arnold, for that reminder. I just quickly show you some pictures, then I'll go directly to the accomplishment or the lessons learned. No? So these are just pictures of Camp Abukar. So you have a road inside the forest, but luckily there are no migrants coming in yet. As they also have several waterfalls that can be used for ecotourism and will provide additional benefits to the communities. No? And majority of the areas, especially at the midstream and downstream portions, are of course dedicated on agriculture, for agriculture. They also have coconut as their primary crops, and of course rice and corn. No? Well, these are still other photos during our training, no, for the boot camps. We, as mentioned earlier, we brought them to Bukidnon for a cross-site visit. So these pictures shows these photos show the different beneficiaries, men and women beneficiaries of the camps, being taught about production of organic growth hormones, as well as organic agriculture, and of course on how to establish nurseries, you know, from sowing the seeds and from selecting the best seeds for germination. And of course, they were also taught of on how to use the A-frame for the sloping agriculture land technology, wherein you need to identify the contours of the area to prevent soil erosion. No? Okay, aside from that, we're very glad that even the our Muslim brothers participated in the baking, training on baking. This time using a carrot and banana sourced from the organic farm that they harvested. No? And some of the updates, some of the updates in Camp Suran. So for Camp Suran, they were able to secure additional support from the local government or the provincial government of Maguindanao del Norte. And they were able to secure seedling support, no? So additional seedlings were given to them. And hopefully this will be sold in the market for the benefit of the MLF, former combatants. No? For Camp Abubakar, they also established their own nursery. This time from with the support coming from the local government of Barira, and some resources coming from IRDT, our responsible partner who delivered the technical trainings to the participants. No? We were also able to organize themselves into a people's organization. And this is the Katabanga Ingid Association. And hoping this by being a legal entity, they are now eligible to receive other grants, no, directly from donors. Okay, this is my last slide in terms of the lessons learned. We learned that it's, of course, in bringing technical and financial support to communities, especially those coming from the armed struggle. Building trust is the first step, no, in fostering relationship with the different camps. And of course, achieving peace and development requires effective and sustainable management of natural resources. So you won't have a peace and development when your natural resources are already depleted. So community-based forest management is vital for both forest protection and forest production. You protect your forest for ecosystem services, and the forest will provide the necessary requirements for forest production, no? And agricultural production as well. The active involvement of camp leaders, their families, indigenous peoples is critical for the successful community initiative. So we really need to involve all the stakeholders in the area to include or to really address their concerns for them to become effective partners of the community or the MLF camps. And of course, both men and women provided the lead to a fair distribution of responsibilities in forest management. And we recognize that the long-term success of this initiative will heavily rely on the backing of the regional government, the BAR, and local government units and other stakeholders. I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much. Sorry, it took me a while to finish the presentation. Back to you, Arnold. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the presentation. Let me open the floor for panelists or for audience if there is any question. You can translate this.
ឥឡូវហ្នឹងគាត់បត់បង្ហាញគាត់ចប់ហើយគាត់ចង់ឲ្យយើងអ្នកណាមានចំណូលចង់សួរអាចសួរបាន
So one question I have before maybe other colleagues come is also, Mark, last time we spoke, you told me about the seeds, the nursery project after the project. Could you please explain a bit what is happening, and are there any latest development in terms of nursery? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question, Arnold. Yeah, as an update for Camp Suran, the cooperative is now doing the marketing of their seedlings, and I think they were able to sell the first batch of their seedlings. No? That's a welcome development. But for Camp Abubakar, because they are newly formed, they still need to comply with other government requirements before they can market their seedlings. But they are now completing the requirements. So we expect that in the coming months, they can also replicate the experience of Camp Suran.
Another question I had was also, you were saying you worked with a local NGO called RDT, and they came up with interesting management frameworks. So on your project, or at least resources on how to conduct sustainable forestry. So maybe you can explain briefly what is their concept, and also if you think this could be replicable in other countries, maybe like Cambodia. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the framework, we pattern our the IRDT's approach pattern their strategy from the CPFM management at the national level, the community-based forest management. So first, you need to organize the community and really gather the information about the community as well as the resources, the existing natural resources in the area, and through community mapping. And when you have done the thematic maps, this can now be part of the analysis and processing that will become inputs in the planning process. No? But basically, these are done participatory, but with the participation of the different stakeholders in the community to bring credibility in the exercise. No? And for them to really work together in identifying the common problem, common issues that needs to be addressed by the plan. Not just in terms of forest management, but of course, in terms of the socioeconomic situation in the area. So that's basically the framework. You intermarry or you link the natural resources management to the community situation, both social, political, and of course economically. No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, and please don't hesitate to share, the resources from the NGO, because this is really interesting and can be then used not only for Cambodia, but we can. It has potential for other areas as well. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for your excellent presentation. I have small question. I have based on your presentation, you show like 40% is classified as the forest land. So I want to know who did clear the forest land is encroach that land, and how about the how to say land titling, land quitation of illegal land. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just a background to answer your question. Just a background. Majority of the forest lands are under the management of the government. So that's the situation here. And because the government has limited financial and human resources, these areas were not effectively managed, resulting to forest degradation and deforestation. That's why the 40% forest cover can only be found inside the former MLF camps, no? Because these camps are naturally protected, no, against encroachment, because this is where the stronghold of the MLF can be found. And right now, the strategy is to close open access areas, meaning if you have these open access areas are areas without tenure instrument or natural or managers, no. So the approach now of the BARM government is to provide tenure security to the people's organization. For instance, we envision that for the two camps, the two cooperatives that were formed there will be given a community-based forest management agreement that will give them the right to manage and protect the forest resources for 25 years and renewable for another 25 years. And these provisions are included in the Sustainable Forest Management Bill, and we hope that the Parliament can pass that soon, so the MANRE can already issue the tenure instruments to these organizations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subhana.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mark. Glad to see a lot of result has been achieved. My first question is related to the SD support. How long this project, when it started, and how many years now? Then my second follow-up question, I think, I know that one of the key result that you have present is a type of land use map or a type of land use which is as a basis for protection. I think based on my last experience, also we have edition of the new land use plan. However, we face with a lot of challenge. And plan is good. Where we decide to manage different land use according to that priority. However, because support as well, constraint have led to destruction and all of not respecting the land use that they produce. But here I see that we have present a lot of also support from local government. What can you share? What are the factors? What are the lessons you can share with local community? For example, how do they engage present this local government support? For your information, I mean, most of the community forestry here have also similar zoning mapping, zoning have a rules regulation, and then they also establish their own management plan. They are trying for the last 2 years to try to present this to local government, particularly to mainstream local development plan of the commune development council. However, it's the first constraint with both. Sometimes technical, sometimes political, and financial support for them to be able to implement the management plan. So it will be good to learn from you as well on this aspect.
Thank you very much for those questions. No, well, for the first question, if I got this correctly, how long is the project? That's where we were able to implement the project for the original timeline is for just for 1 year, and of course, given the fact that there are some delays in terms of implementation, especially that the area is still considered as a conflict zone. So the timeline what was
21 to 24, no?
Yeah, was extended for 2 years, no?
3 years, yeah.
3 years
Nearly-
include
Three years. Well,
There was-
I joined UNDP in 2023, so I'm just familiar with the 2-year period. But in terms of the design and this design phase and the initial phase, that of course you need to cooperate or collaborate with the government and the beneficiaries, and that took us around 3 years. No? That's correct. Well, if I also got your question or comment on your second point, no, in terms of the challenges, land use and constraints. Well, in terms of the land use, while we have the community resource management framework at the camp level, we also would like to advocate that this zoning, but the zone and the land use inside the forest camps will be included as part of the forest land use plan of the municipalities, no? Covering the two camps, no? So there will be congruency in terms of the intervention and management strategies that need to be conducted in the area. And aside from that, to effectively manage this, we will the MENRE has agreed and committed that they will include in the policy, not just in the Sustainable Forest Management Bill, but also in other guidelines that we will produce in the near future, to include CBFM as part of their regional forest management strategy. That means this will also provide budget, personnel, and regular support coming from the BARM government to this area. So in terms of financial, so a policy is being prepared for that. In terms of the budget, once we have the policy, the parliament will allocate budget for CBFM to continue our activities in the area. In terms of the plan, of course, the community plan, the CRMF, will also be included in the forest land use plan at the LGU level. And I believe that this forest land use plan at the LGU level will also be part of a regional-wide land use plan. So that, of course, all of these zones will complement, no? And when we say forest protection zone, we are always talking to the same forest area that needs to be protected. Well, in terms of support, the regional government still continuously looking for support, no? Not just from the donor agencies, but also for support coming from the national government, because the regional government, due to the peace agreement, is now granted an autonomy to manage their area. But of course, still there is still a need for technical assistance as well as financial assistance to the area until such time that they were able to adjust
យើងបាន
and be successful in their management mechanism. No?
ព្រៃនឹងបានទទួលជោគជ័យ
And well, in terms of the partnership with the local community, of course, these camps are not dominated by, it's still dominated by Muslim, but of course, the community is also composed of several groups, IP, indigenous people, as well as migrant groups, no? Coming from other places, some are coming from Luzon, some are coming from Visayas. So dialogue between and among these groups is still key for sustaining the efforts on community-based forest management. And I think when we last visited the area, they were able to show us that the partnership among the different groups is very strong, that they were able to really graduate to a people's organization composed of different stakeholders.
Philippine People
I think that's
Organization
it.
NGO យើងចឹងនេះ
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for the presentation. And it's really interesting in hearing from you. I'm sure there are a lot of other questions, but because we have to close our own debriefing meeting at 5, I think we have to let you go. But big thanks again for your time. I think let's join to give you a last round of applause and wish you a good weekend, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. Thank you.